The teaser for Toy Story 5 just dropped, and it turns out the new villain is a tablet. Honestly, when you compare this to the bad guys from the first 3 movies, it feels a bit weak. It actually reminded me of Kung Fu Panda, where the villain looked cool on paper, but ended up being beaten in like 7 minutes. The same thing happened in Despicable Me 4, and even in Hotel Transylvania and Ice Age. So it really makes you wonder, why do animated movies keep giving us such lame villains lately?
For all I know, the camera is on this sneaky little tablet, so it might be spying on Bonnie and recording every single thing that toys do. And honestly, it just reminds me how far we've fallen from the days of real villains like Lotso in Toy Story 3, the fairy godmother in Shrek 2, or even El Macho in Despicable Me 2. And don't even get me started on the Kung Fu Panda villains. It feels like once a franchise hits movie number 4 or 5, the bad guys stop feeling dangerous. And then the big final fight shows up, and it's so underwhelming, they might as well break into a dance. They don't defeat anyone, they don't change anything, and they definitely don't feel like real threats anymore.
Hold on a second. Since we're talking about Toy Story, we can't forget how serious the early villains were. Sid literally tore toys apart, and Lotso straight up sent the whole gang to an incinerator. That scene is still one of the most emotional moments in the entire series. If the aliens hadn't saved them, the toys would have ended up melted down and turned into plastic bags. And honestly, it's like third movies have some kind of villain curse, because when the franchise hits movie 4, everything changes. In Toy Story 4, Gabby Gabby is introduced as this creepy new villain with those unsettling ventriloquist dolls. At first, she actually seems scary, but slowly Pixar and Disney soften her up until she becomes someone we're supposed to pity, just a lonely doll with a broken voice box who faced rejection her whole life. So suddenly all the creepy stuff she did gets brushed aside because she has a sad backstory. And in the end, she doesn't stay a villain at all. She gets redeemed, forgiven, and handed a brand new home like nothing happened. And this is one big reason why today's villains feel so weak. Almost every single one needs a sad backstory to explain why they're bad. They can't just be bad for the sake of being bad. You see, when I was a kid, villains didn't need explanations. They weren't spoiled, misunderstood, or lonely. They were just straight up evil. Think of the old Disney villains. Scar was pure revenge, Frollo was all about abusing power and giving in to lust, and Hades was full of envy. Back then, nobody bothered explaining their pasts, and we didn't care. They were just the living embodiment of negative emotions, and that was enough. Over time, we got villains like Tai Lung from Kung Fu Panda, the fairy godmother from Shrek 2, and Lotso from Toy Story 3. These characters were still the embodiment of evil, but they came with a bit of backstory. Sometimes it made us feel a little sympathy for them and see them as more than just bad guys, as characters with real emotions who got twisted along the way. But even with that backstory, they weren't given a chance to turn good. Their backstories were just there to explain why they did terrible things, nothing more. Disney in particular kept the moral rules clear. If you're evil, you pay, often with death. And now that Toy Story 5 is coming, it makes Toy Story 4 feel totally unnecessary. Honestly, skipping it wouldn't matter much since almost none of the characters from that movie are coming back, except maybe that knife and fork.
How'd you find me?
Bo, I found him!
Hi.
And this is one of the reasons why villains in animated movies feel so weak nowadays. They can't be too scary or too different because the studios don't want the characters to change too much. If they did, it might mess up the franchise formula. And these companies just want to keep making easy money from the same characters over and over. Disney brought the Toy Story back, and now they're going to keep milking it like this until the series dies, probably until Woody's 90. You can't tell a story that stands on its own anymore because the studios might need the villain to pop up again in the next movie. You also can't really finish character arcs like the one they wanted for Woody because for Disney, a Toy Story movie without him just doesn't make money. And now, with this new tablet villain, the same thing is happening. Basically, they'll find a way to make all the stories collide at the end just like in Despicable Me 4. That movie was basically the king of random subplots. Remember they hyped up that ninja villain, or whatever his name was, Maxim Levant? Honestly, nobody even remembers.
The thing is, he was supposed to be the big bad because he had a long rivalry with Gru going back to school. But in the movie, the villain spends the whole time chasing Gru and never actually catches him. By the final fight, he barely lasts 7 minutes and basically gets taken down by a baby. That's how weak the threat was. This villain wasn't really a villain at all, he was just there to make Gru's relationship with his new son grow from bad to good. In other words, he was more of a story tool than a real threat, just setting things up for Despicable Me 5 where Gru trains his kid. The same thing happened in Kung Fu Panda 4 with the chameleon villain. She was supposed to be the ultimate bad guy because she could steal the powers of all the previous villains. That made all the old villains look like jokes, weak enough to be beaten by a random sorceress who suddenly shows up. On top of that, the movie tried to make Tylan redeem himself and even got the other villains to bow down to Po. And you might be wondering, what was the point of the chameleon villain then? Basically, she was just there for show. First, to get people back into the Kung Fu Panda movies. Second, to set up this new character as Po's apprentice. It looks like the franchise is passing the torch. Yen becomes the new Po, Po becomes the new Shifu, and Shifu becomes Well, the new wise old master. Meanwhile, this villain, who already looked way weaker than the others, got defeated in the easiest possible way. By the end, she even says she's letting the hero win so she can fight the new apprentice. It cost her nothing. She was never really a threat. The same thing is probably going to happen with the tablet. Hide its charger? No threat. Put a 5G box on it? No threat. Pour water on it? Still no threat. Turn off the Wi-Fi? Gone.
Nowadays, villains can't be truly dangerous either. According to the studios, if they scare kids too much, families won't go to the movies or buy the toys tied to the franchise. These days, it's all about toy sales, not the story. Take Ice Age 5, for example. There's basically no villain. The threat is an asteroid, used just as an excuse to throw in as many characters as possible so kids will want the toys. And that bird does not really count as a villain. It never actually challenges the heroes in any meaningful way. Or look at Hotel Transylvania. There, the focus on selling toys is obvious. They even turn the characters upside down, making monsters human and humans monsters. And through the whole movie, there's never a real sense of danger. So after Toy Story 5 comes out, you can bet they'll start selling tablets based on this villain for like 5 times the price of a normal one. And some people might ask, is it really a big deal if villains aren't scary or memorable? The answer is almost always yes. A strong villain is the easiest way to make the hero grow, facing challenges, winning sometimes, losing sometimes, getting hurt and learning real lessons. And honestly, the real villains in these franchises are the studio executives. They want characters that are easy to sell and easy for audiences to consume. And what scares them most is the creative risks. A movie that proves this is Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. For me, it's a masterpiece for our generation. It gives us 3 types of antagonists in one film: a villain who never redeems himself, a super powerful villain, and a confused antagonist. Together, they create a wide range of emotions, letting Puss grow from the character we know into a better, wiser version who understands that life is precious because his time will eventually come.
So why isn't anyone doing this more often? Because taking creative risks is scary for studios. Even though critics love the movie, it didn't make the billion-dollar numbers that other formulaic franchises do. So to answer the question from this video, the truth is these franchises are mostly about making money, not telling good stories. This is especially true for movies that go past the 3rd installment. By then, the ideas start to fade, and studios don't want to properly close character arcs or give weight to the story's ending. Instead, they fill the movies with weak villains who aren't really a threat. They just nudge the heroes around a little. That way, nothing is fully resolved, and the franchise can keep going forever. Now, I want to hear from you in the comments. Do you agree with me? Or do you think some 4th or later movies still have strong villains? I want to read your thoughts. And that's it. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, share it with someone you don't like so they have a bad time too. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.